'cause these stairs are all heading to you. I don't wait for tomorrow's sunshine when I feel it today. And when it's cold in the dead of winter, remember that snow melts away. One more cold drink, one more roll, one more dance for the doors get closed. Please remember, enjoy the show. Let's get happy before we get old. We don't need plans or a fancy agenda. Well, let's just see where it goes. We got no care for the way people stare at the dust and the dirt on our clothes. Hey, my friend, we'll never say remember when. If we keep on making memories where we stand, where we stand. One more cold drink, one more roll, one more dance for the doors get closed. Please remember, enjoy the show. Let's get happy before we get old.
Hello!
Hello!
And welcome to this little video. As promised, we're going to tell you a little bit more about our little Bedford fire truck and what we're doing with it, why we got it, and what we're going to be doing here for the next couple of years.
Yeah, just before we start, just a small disclaimer. Just want to apologise for our excessive shivering throughout the entirety of this video because it is January, it is really, really cold.
It's cold.
And our doors face north and there is a wind blowing right off of Dartmoor right now, so we're really cold. So sorry about that. Send blankets. So this is our truck, our tiny home on wheels 2B. And in this film, we are going to introduce the truck properly to you and tell you a little bit why the heck we chose a 1975 Bedford fire truck.
Why did we buy a 1975 Bedford fire truck?
Good questions here. The first reason I think we bought a 1975 Bedford fire truck is quite simply that it's really cool and really old rope salvage.
Well, you liked the Bedford TKs and all that kind of stuff right from the start off.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I've grown to really like them, I think, and they're definitely a bit of 1970s, so they're pretty cool.
Well, we did think about going older, I think, at one point, didn't we?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I really like the 1970s kind of era.
There was a lot of like, if we were going to build like a camper, motorhome, whatever you call it, expedition vehicle. What do you call it?
An adventure movie.
Adventure vehicle. Yeah, we could have gone like, there's a lot of more normal routes, I suppose. We could have converted a motorhome or something like that, but that wasn't really what we wanted. The easiest, I suppose, most straightforward way would have been done a van conversion, but although you get your choice about how you do the interior out of it, you are kind of stuck with what the manufacturer's made for you. And I wouldn't say it's run of the mill. I don't mean to offend anyone who's got like a Sprinter van or anything. They are amazing things, but we just wanted to do something our way, a bit different, and it gave us the scope to kind of, the idea is to create it exactly how we would want to do it and what size and everything.
I think we really, really wanted to have a creative project, and we wanted a project, and because of what we do anyway with the old rope salvage, the upcycling, we both got art backgrounds and everything. We actually wanted something that was going to be really creative, that we could really make unique on our own. The other thing that led us to buy something along these lines was that we wanted something quite big, I suppose, bigger than perhaps a Sprinter van. We wanted something more like with a camper on the back, and as big as we could possibly get away with while still being practical and drivable. We do, after all, live in Cornwall, and it's very narrow
This is already
lanes.
too wide. It's too wide for Cornwall already. Yeah, I suppose when we first looked at the idea of doing it, we kind of took a few things into consideration. One of the other things that a van seems to do is that by the time you get from the front bumper to the back of the seats, great if you swivel the seats around, but it's quite a lot of space you give up. And that's why we first started looking at lorries and trucks, because you seemingly got a less distance from the front, it's that long.
It's got a stubby nose.
And I guess that would give you more volume for the back. And that's why we kind of first looked at them. This is actually a bit longer than some of the other trucks we were thinking about. But I guess that's kind of one of the other things really, why we were looking for a truck.
Okay, so after we started looking at lorries and bigger vehicles like that, we sort of stumbled across this whole world of overlanders.
God, that's a weird one, isn't it? I thought I was being quite original, thinking, well, we could use a truck to build a camper on and, build our own back for it and do all this stuff. And then I had never heard of overlanders. And then one day I saw this, I can't even remember where I saw it, but I'm like, this is a thing, people are doing this. Yeah, so we actually kind of bought a Haynes manual, how to build an overland camper. And lo and behold, this kind of was exactly what we wanted to do. We weren't looking at the go anywhere capabilities of a four-wheel drive truck. We didn't really need all that, and we had no plans of going on long expeditions overland anywhere in a 4x4 vehicle.
That might change.
Well, yeah.
I've been inspired.
In a funny kind of way, it's still not our criteria now. We just want to build something how we want to build it. But it does so happen that this is a four-wheel drive truck, and, well...
And these particular vehicles we didn't know this at the time, but these particular vehicles were used historically as kind of overlanders before they started using the more modern DAFs.
And other things.
So it does have a history of being an overlander. But having said that, the kind of most important thing here for us is that we don't have an overlanding budget.
No.
Because they are, in a traditional sense of how they are built, very pricey.
Yeah, they cost £1 million.
He's not even joking.
Some do.
Some do. So we were kind of excited by the idea of overlanders, but we really didn't have the budget for it. So it kind of became an evolution of thought, really, where we were looking at all these different things, van life, overlanders, and then even sort of the old new age traveller vehicles and that kind of thing, like horse boxes and everything. And with us, our old rope salvage and our upcycling and recycling, it kind of ended up becoming a little bit of a mashup of all these different things.
We've got quite an idea in our own heads of what we want to create, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of fairly unique in a way. But that's why you'll have to tune in and see what we do with it, really.
We're also really interested in turning it into a really beautiful vehicle, using the paint job, sign writing and all that kind of thing. And that's just the base vehicle. There's obviously the whole question of how we're going to build the back and everything. So what we have, or what we are trying to do, is kind of a creative overlander on a budget with a vintage twist. And our tiny little budget is, at this point in time, £15,000, and that includes...
How are you going to do it for that much?
That includes the cost of the vehicle that we've already bought, which was £3,000.
Yeah, kind of another point actually from earlier on as the other idea of using something like a Sprinter or a modern vehicle is we have got quite a tiny budget. Hopefully we'll stick into the ballpark of that, But to get a half decent like van of that kind that's not like got millions of miles on it and is really old was quite a lot more money, I think. So it already would have eaten up quite a lot of our budget just in the base vehicle. So I know it's sort of ridiculous. We're going to be paying more for fuel in this in the long run.
But then we're not going to plan on going
it
very
fitted,
far.
it fitted quite neatly with our overall budget, I think. So yeah, what was it, 3,000 odd quid so far?
It was £3,100, was it including actually getting it delivered to Cornwall, where we live from Wiltshire. So it was quite a good start, I think, to our journey. But we will keep track of our budget, and we might even create a budget chalkboard and total it up over the next year or two, see how that actually goes. We'll see how long it is before we actually run out of money.
Jacket off again. Freezing! Like, it would be easier if we could just make videos just of outtakes. Because then we wouldn't have to do anything serious
That's
at
a
all.
lot of outtakes.
How comes doing stuff when you're trying to do it seriously is like so much colder? This is the truck. It was manufactured by Bedford in the UK in 1975. It's known as an M series, or an MK, or an M1120, which is this exact model. They were quite popular with utility companies, and for something like as a fire truck. And well, their biggest customer was probably the military. Most of these that you ever see are ex-military army trucks. So yeah, that's and they were kind of designed to be quite simplistic in their servicing and repairs for them, without too much modern fangled electrics or anything like that. And then for this as a fire truck, it's all metal, so it wouldn't melt when it got too close to the fires and the planes, like burning. This is the we have two of these, two bonnets, one on each side. And this is our access to the engine. The radiator water, and right back in there is the engine. It makes it a little bit tricky to get into, especially once the box is on the back. Tricky indeed. One of the advantages of the more modern trucks is they tend to have tilt-in cabs, so you can get to that sort of stuff easier. But that's something we're just going to have to live with. You win some, you lose some. Moving back here, we can see a little bit better the engine in there. This is a petrol unit. It's 5 litre, 6-cylinder petrol, and it's a little bit tuned up so that it would get to the fires a bit quicker. Hence we have like dual twin Weber carburetors and some modifications that were made to it. And the engine is in pretty good condition. We don't exactly know what we're going to be doing with it, because it is a petrol engine and it's terrible for fuel consumption. We may have to swap to something like a diesel. In an ideal world, we'd love to do an electric vehicle, and maybe in a few years' time that might become a little bit more possible, but with budget restraints and the ability to charge the batteries needed for it, it might make it difficult. But who knows what happens in a few years' time. These things are moving on very quickly, and yeah, well, something for the future maybe. As you can move back here, we see pretty basic chassis, and this is where the habitation will be mounting from above this line, so it puts your living space quite high up in the air, and then the possibility of underneath it for lots of things like generators, batteries, water tanks, fuel tanks, grey water tanks, everything else you might need, storage lockers for your barbecue, surfboard, motorbikes, I don't know, what do you have? Coming back a little bit further, this model is equipped with dual rear wheels on its axle. This is something else as well that we might have to look at for a alteration or an upgrade, I don't know, to the vehicle. It's kind of widely seen that having single rear wheels is better for going all over the place, because then you don't get rocks trapped between your wheels, which then would damage them. So something else we might have a little bit of a look at. Yeah, that's it really. It's all pretty basic, all fixable with, you know, a small set of spanners. I see, fixable. It's all take apartable with a few small spanners. So yeah, this is the back part of the truck where our camper part will go. The whole truck is just under 22 feet long. It appears like quite a big truck, and I'm sure by the time the box goes on the back it will be quite a big old thing, but it's still not that long. We do have the option to make it longer if we choose, but we'll see what we do. So the bed length itself is just over 15 feet and is just under 8 foot wide, and as you can see is a huge blank canvas for us to create whatever we choose.
Here we are inside the cab. You can probably see it's pretty basic, just a bit of a sort of tin can really, or so it feels like to me at the moment. So we might be having some upgrades in here, making it a little bit more cozy, a little bit more comfy. I think we'll be getting some soundproofing, definitely. Probably gonna need some soundproofing. Might want to plug up some of these holes in the roof as well. As you can probably see, it's pretty small and bijou. What we have is windows all the way around, which is really nice, but obviously when we have the habitation box on the back, this will effectively be covered over. So we're thinking that we probably make this into a crawl through into the living quarters in the back, which is essentially just a security thing really, in case we need to make a quick exit and drive away, and we can get from the back into the driver's seat in an emergency. We've got some nice little seats, but they probably will be upgraded because they're pretty basic again, probably not terribly comfortable for any semi-long journeys. So we've got 3 gear sticks in here. Wow, that seems pretty excessive really, but this is a big truck. You've got what is essentially a normal gear stick, 1, 2, 3, 4, and reverse. You have your 4-wheel drive option here for when you want to go off playing in the mud, and you have high and low ratios right here. Right, we're down the front here, we've got all these knobs here.
Are we going to keep them? They're like fire engine parts, aren't they?
We've got fog, we've got rev, we've got pump bay.
Pump bay?
We've got locker, another locker, beacon, and a spot. So I'm sure that will be maybe upcycled into something. Oh, we've got horns. This is our heater. It's an amazing technological advancement of the 1970s. You have heater off, heater open, heater on. So one of the reasons, or one of the many reasons, one of the things we kind of like about old vehicles, being old school ourselves, is the simplicity of an older vehicle. It's all about mechanics, and is all very fixable and understandable. You can fix stuff yourself when it's a mechanical problem. So in an older vehicle you don't get complicated electrics, you don't have to plug a computer in to get a diagnostic on a problem, and you don't get things beeping at you every 2 minutes. So we kind of like that, and we even really like to have things like the old windy windows. Oh, like this. Obviously needs a little bit of work to fix it up again. And look at these lovely things. Little flap windows, aircon. What more do you need? Now, if you're old enough to remember windows like this from the 1970s, then you know exactly how much we love these. What else are we going to do in here? What we're going to do is we're going to turn this interior into an interior of absolute beauty. It's going to look magnificent. It might even have bunting.
Bunting?
Fairy dice?
Furry dice?
Animal print seat covers?
Leopard skin?
The other thing about this wonderful cab is that you're really high up, and I thought I'd find that a little bit scary, but actually it feels really, really nice. I'm really looking forward to driving along and having magnificent views across the very high Cornish hedges. So you can definitely see what's coming, even if you can't get out of the way. Cup of tea.
Oh god, a cup of tea. It's so cold.
To remember that snow melts away.
So this is an old vehicle. It's a 1975. So obviously we are going to be, the first thing we're going to be doing is some restoration to the actual vehicle, and that will probably take us several months.
Well, it could take us a little while, especially in this weather. It's freezing cold. But our intention is to strip the whole truck down. We want to start off nut and bolt, get it really good. We're gonna probably have to replace a lot of seals and brake lines and electrical stuff. But we're gonna repaint the whole body, the cab part, and upholster, do a whole load of restoration work on it so that it's really nice when we eventually hit the road. And you're going to be learning lots of new skills, exciting things like sanding and welding.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting my badges. I've got my camping badge so far.
You're going to get your welding badge.
I'm looking forward to getting my my welding badge in particular. I mean, I do have some skills, but I have never done any work on a vehicle before. So
The truck's really good. It's although it's 1975, the mileometer is only reading 10,000 miles. And we have no reason to believe that that's not actually correct.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually been round the clock. I think it is.
No, I think it is 10,000 miles, but that is 10,000 miles in 45 years. So, and it's the 45 years we're working with. But it's actually in pretty good nick. It's going to need a fair old bit of work, but it's hopefully not too difficult a restoration. It could be with some of the parts we might need, but we'll sort that out as we go along. Part of the restoration phase of the truck will be making a couple of little upgrades. So we're hoping that we might be able to possibly put power steering in. Although I have to say, on driving it, I didn't actually think the steering was that bad. But by the time it's got a lot of weight in the back of it as well, it may be a bit different thing.
The restoration will basically involve taking everything apart, cleaning it up, restoring it, and putting it all back together again. So it's quite a lot of work, which is why we've got a really massive workbench.
It's going to take at least a week.
The idea is that we will spend quite a bit of time looking at restoring the vehicle to its former glory, but also giving it a whole new look and lease of life. We would like to probably have a few nods here and there to its history as a fire truck, but essentially it is going to be getting a complete makeover. So
that all sounds a little bit boring, but we will surely make it very exciting for anyone to watch.
We're still arguing over what colours we want to paint it, but at the moment I think Old Rope Salvage Brown is kind of but it's not going to be.
Give away anything.
It's not going to be brown, it's going to be pretty cool. So.
Brown? You can't paint a car brown. Oh yeah.
I think you can.
I get dirt on my shoes.
The other sort of big thing that everybody's going to be asking about is what exactly we're going to be doing to the back, or as we've started calling it, the habitation box, because that's what fancy overlanders call it. So we might have to think of a slightly less glamorous name.
It doesn't sound that cool, does it? The
It
shed.
doesn't.
Can you
It
call it the
sounds a
shed?
bit boring, doesn't it?
The den.
The den. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you've got any ideas about what we can call it,
The
please
bit
do
on the
let us
back.
know.
That you turn into the actual camper bit.
We are going to be building that from scratch.
Yep. There's many choices that people make when they come to building that aspect of the truck. Refrigerated lorry backs, you get all sorts of stuff with ex-military things. There's a few choices, but yeah, we're gonna, and there's a few ways that can be done with obviously a variety of materials, like from timber frames, steel, aluminium, and more modernly people use composites with foam cores and fiberglass. We have an idea of what we want to do, but part of the process of us building this is going to be to try and experiment with some of those different materials to see actually what's going to work best for us and what we can produce. So we're going to have quite a bit of a play around and have quite a few samples and try some different things. But the idea is that we are going to make all of that ourselves. In fact, the whole truck, we are going to do all ourselves.
We are very much at the idea stage here, obviously, as I'm sure you can appreciate. What we know is that we want to build the back as much as is possible from reclaimed materials or upcycled materials, recycled materials, you know, the sort of thing. That's where we will be saving money, hopefully. We won't be scrimping so much on sort of the fittings on the inside, things like the fridge and the cooker and everything.
I've already had ideas for building my own fridge.
Watch this space. But what you won't be seeing is any trips to B&Q. You might be seeing 1 or 2 trips to Trago Mills. If you don't know what Trago Mills is, look it up, because it's like a Cornish institution.
One of the ways to keep to our small budget we have is that we will obviously be doing as much of the work, well, all of the work ourselves. That will keep our costs down, and so will using these upcycled, reclaimed materials wherever possible. There are times when we can't use recycled materials. It just doesn't make any sense to do that, and obviously you can only get what you can find. That's going to be part of us keeping our costs down and doing it to the minimum amount.
So that's kind of part of the challenge, I suppose, and
Yeah.
it is a challenge, but we wanted a challenge, so it's kind of partly seeing if it can be done and how it can be done. So if you join us on that journey, obviously we'll be learning as we go along and passing that, what we learn on to you.
Yeah, and we don't really have a massively fancy workshop either. We are fortunate enough to have this space which is in the dry. It's not in the warm, and it's not in the light, but
No,
it is
not
in the dry. But we don't have a great deal of, we don't have a well-equipped workshop really. We have a few things, and we'll be obviously picking up some more stuff as we go along where we need to. But yeah, this isn't like a big build, big budget build or anything. This is a creative build.
Yes, it is very much a creative build. I'm a great believer in the principle of start where you are with what you've got, and I think that pretty
And what
much
have we got?
very little. Well, we're very fortunate.
We've got this.
We've got this. We had some money from the sale of our boat, which we put into this to start us off. We've been very fortunate to find a space big enough to accommodate our needs, and we are still in the process really of setting up the workshop to, you know, serve our needs really. But even the workbench has been built from all reclaimed materials, as you probably saw in the last video. So yeah, start where you are with what you have, which is what we're doing. We're not starting with nothing, but we're not starting with very much at all. So it is very much a creative budget build, and a build that probably anyone with a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of daring do could probably set about themselves as well if they really had a mind to. So let's put it this way, if I can do something like this, believe me, anyone can.
Enjoyed that video, learning a little bit more about what we're doing with the truck and our plans with it. But of course, we didn't answer one very big question, and that is, why a truck in the first place?
Yeah, so we're gonna follow up this video next week with a sort of part 2, so make sure you tune in for that. We're gonna talk a little bit more about our background, what we've kind of done in our life to lead us to this particular point in time and this particular slightly questionable life choice. So make sure you don't miss that one, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bass on an old fishing
There's
boat.
a big heater now and a big cup of hot tea.
Grandpa Joe, let's get happy before